Hello. Okay. So in today's session, we are going to see orderer. Okay. So in previous session, I have explained you what is orderer and what is the role of orderer in Fabric network, uh, in the blockchain network. So orderer is basically responsible to uh, order or arrange your transactions in the order in which transaction has arrived to orderer, and then create a block and send to all the peers of the channel, so that transactions get committed, right? uh, so that is the primary responsibility of orderer, right? So to start the orderer, okay, so let's say, suppose this is my orderer and this is the client. Okay. And client sends a transaction to order. Okay. So actually it will not be transaction, right? You understand it. It will be endorsed transaction or endorsed proposal request. Okay. Once your orderer receives the proposed transaction request, I mean, sorry, endorsed uh, proposal request, it does not open the transaction. Okay, it does not see what is inside the transaction because it don't need to. Okay, it just need to calculate the hash of the transaction so that it arrange it or it link to previous transaction, right? And so that is primary job. But orderer definitely verify if this transaction has come from a valid user, right? It validates if this transaction has come from a valid or authenticated user. Now, how your orderer do this, right? So to understand that, we have to understand the Genesis block. Okay, so when we start orderer, okay, we provide it a Genesis block. Okay, now what is a Genesis block? Genesis block is a binary file that we create using a tool called the uh, uh, called called config text gen. It goes like config text transaction gen. So we use this tool and we provide a configuration file where we define all the configuration. So with the help of this tool and that configuration file, we generate a Genesis block. Okay, this Genesis block captures uh, our network information. Okay, network information means it uh, stores the detail like what kind of order we are using, and how many participants or how many organizations we have in our consortium, and what is the organization MSP uh, of these organizations. Okay, so if you remember from the Configtxgen tool, when we created, we had organization label MSP and then individual entity label MSP. Okay, when we generate the Genesis block, we provide the organization label MSP, because that MSP does not have any uh, private key, and the orderer does not need to have or does not need to know the private keys of any entity. It just need to know uh, the certificate that is required to validate any signature or any entity. Okay, and that can be validated only through the organization label MSP. Okay, so, and we also provide other details about the order and or application, right? So we write these details uh, in the configuration file, and then when we generate Genesis block through the config txgen, okay, it captures all the details and packs up in a file called the Genesis file. Okay, or we call the Genesis block. Okay, and we give this Genesis block to the orderer at the startup. Okay, so this is how orderer know about all the peers in the network, all the certificates of each organization that is required for the verification of signatures, and it also we also specify the anchor peer of each organization. Okay, anchor peer is the peer that will be used in the network for the peer-to-peer communication. Okay, so we provide all this information in the configuration file, and then when we generate the Genesis block through the Configtxgen tool, all this information flow to the Genesis block, and this is how your orderer know about all the organization structure, right? uh, Next thing is, okay, now when you start uh, orderer orderer automatically creates a um, it has a system chain codes that helps orderer to create a default channel, or that we call the system channel. Okay, by default the name of that system channel is test chain code ID. Okay, and if you want, you can override this name as well in the configuration files. I think in the order.yaml. But by default, name of the system chain code is or the channel is uh, test chain code ID. Okay, and this Genesis block information. Okay, Genesis block information goes in the uh, on this channel, or it goes as a transaction. Genesis block information goes as a transaction in the system chain code ID. Okay, so that is also a ledger. Okay, when I'm saying it has created a channel, so channel is automatically associated with a ledger, right? So this Genesis block information go as a transaction in the system chain code ID's ledger. Okay, system chain code ID, system chain codes are ledger, or I will say test chain code ID channels ledger. Okay, so Genesis block is the first block that gets created in Hyperledger Fabric network. Okay, and it becomes a part of your system uh, system created chain code ledger. Okay, okay, and one more thing. Uh, so I have explained you or when we start the orderer has system chain code, and with the help of that system chain code, it creates a channel. And because every channel is associated with a ledger, your orderer will have ledger. Default name of your system channel is test channel ID. Okay, default name of that channel is test chain ID. Okay, this channel is associated with a ledger, and your genesis block, which is the first block in any hyperledger fabric network, this block becomes the part of your uh, test channel ID ledger. It becomes the first block in the test channel ID ledger. Okay, now we have learned that your ledger is consist of two parts: transaction logs and uh, state database. Right now, your orderer maintains a ledger, but it does not have state database. It has only transaction logs. Right, so in the I will show you this as well. In the transaction log, you will see genesis block that you create through the Configtxgen tool becomes the first block in the transaction log in the ledger of the test chain ID, which is the default channel or default ledger in the order. Okay, so now let's see, and let's create the genesis block, and then we'll start the order. Okay. Okay, so here is a command or the binary that we are utility that we are going to use to generate genesis block. Okay, and Configtxgen is the name of the utility that we are going to use, and this utility needs this file config.txt.yml. So this is the file, and you can update this file as per your requirement, which I'm going to update now in front of you so that we understand it properly. Okay, in this file we have two profiles. Okay, this hyperledger fabric batch one orderer genesis. Okay, so we normally at least create two profiles. You can create more profile as well, but first profile is to create the genesis block, and the second profile we use to create the channel transaction. Okay, we will learn about the channel transaction in the next session, but in today's session we will see and we will know about the genesis block. Okay, so under the profile element you have to create a profile. So you will write, you can write any name whatever makes sense to you here. So this is a name, right, and this is your profile name. Inside this profile name we define the our organization structure. Okay, like how many orders we have, how many organizations we have, right, how these organizations are organized, and what is the detail of these organizations. Okay, so this is the name of profile, and then we have orderer information, and then we have consortium information. Consortium means your organization. Okay, your organization structure, how many organizations you have, one organization, two organization, or three organization that will participate in this hyperledger fabric network. Okay, so let's first look at the orderer. Okay, so you have to write this orderer element here. Inside the orderer, right, we have orderer default. Okay, so this orderer default is the orderer configuration. It is defined at the bottom of this file here. orderer default. So this is the default configuration of your orderer, right? This is where we are providing the default configuration of our orderer, right? This is the default configuration of orderer. Okay, and this dot and this less than sign has a specific this is special syntax for YAML files, and this dot basically indicates that it is referring to some other definition in this file. Okay, so actually what happens at the runtime, uh, it your YML processor go to this uh, definition. Okay, and this definition, if you see here, this orderer default is defined with the and, right, and it means it is an anchor. Okay, and this to refer any anchor, right, this is how we create an anchor, and to refer any anchor we use asterisk. Okay, so what will happen at the runtime, whatever inside this anchor, okay, everything as it is, okay, all these values will be copied here. Okay, this will be replaced, and everything whatever is mentioned here, right, it will be copied there, right. This is the significance of that significance of this syntax. Okay, so this is a special syntax. I mean, you can go through some YAML tutorial, you will find a lot of details. Okay, but on high level, this is the meaning of this syntax. We have created an anchor, and we are referring that anchor here. Okay, so this is orderer default, and uh, this is where your order default is defined. Okay, so here we can define the orderer configuration. Okay, so like what kind of orderer we want to create. Okay, we have two type of orderer, one is solo and other is called the Kafka. Okay, so if you want to create a cluster of orderers, so that you have load balancing and fault tolerance, then obviously you need to have multiple orderer nodes. For that, we create a Kafka based orderer, where we have to use Kafka messaging service and the zookeeper for the to host or to keep the configurations. Okay, so and that is the functionality wise it's same, but it just provide you extra fault tolerance. Okay, if you use a Kafka based configuration, and then you have to also configure the Kafka and the zookeeper. Okay, so if you are building Kafka based order service, then you have to specify here Kafka. But if you want to use one node order, which we will be doing, so you can leave it as solo. Okay, this is the address of your orderer. Okay, host name and IP address. And if you remember, we discussed this configuration. Okay, I explained you your orderer receives your orderer receives transaction, right, and it wait for some second, for some time, and if and during that time, whatever transaction it has received, it batches them, right, and creates one block and send to broadcast to all the peers in the channel, right. So this is where that configuration is. Okay, so it wait for 2 seconds. Okay, so within the 2 second, whatever transaction has arrived, it batches them, it keeps one block and send to the all the peers. Okay, and so this is your batch size, I mean the batch timeout. Okay, and then you have batch size, right? And it has the max message count. Okay, so it waits for 2 seconds or max message count, which is your which is the default value for which is 10. Okay, so either 10 transaction come or 2 second has or it wait for 2 seconds. Okay, whatever meets first, it takes that condition or that value and creates a batch that we call block and send to all the peers in the channel. Okay, so say suppose in 1 second if he gets 10 transactions, then it will create one your order will create one batch or one block, and it will broadcast to all the peers, right? and and then it will start creating the next block. Okay, even within the 2 seconds also. Okay, so whatever meet first, it follow that. Okay, and then this is the size of your uh, blocks. Next, if you see this one here, this is related to Kafka order service. If you are defining Kafka based order, then you have to configure these parameters. Otherwise, you can leave this because it does not have any impact on your configuration. Okay, so this is orderer default. So these are the default values for your orderer. Okay, that is why it's a orderer default. And this is just a name, right? So whatever name you will use here, you have to use the same name here. Okay, then you have organization. Again, you can see that and because this is about the orderer, so we have to this organization information is for the orderer. Okay, again you can see here this is pointing to something else because you can see here asterisk, so it means this value or this variable is defined somewhere else. Okay, so if you scroll down you will see orderer org. See, again anchor. Okay, so orderer organization, or organization, right? So here is the definition of your orderer. Okay, so in the first section we saw the default configuration value for the orderer. Now we are defining the orderer. Okay, like what is the name of your orderer, what is the MSP ID, and where is the MSP directory, where is the MSP certificates. So this kind of values we define in the orderer organization. Okay, so name is straightforward, you can write any name whatever you like, right? Next is your ID. Now this ID is important. Okay, this is your MSP ID. Whatever value you use here, right, you have to use the same value when you will configure your order. Okay, so whatever value of MSP ID you use in the Genesis block, in the config text.yml file, which will be used to create the Genesis block, you have to use the same MSP IDs in the orderer and in the PS, right? Because this is important. Okay, because this is also a way of validation in the way of validation, or one more level of validation, uh, when your different entities or components communicate with each other in the fabric network. Okay, your MSP ID is also checked. Okay, so you need to remember this. Okay, so whatever MSP ID you will use here, you have to use the same MSP ID in all other configurations. Okay, you have to use the same MSP ID when you will start the orderer. You have to use the same MSP ID when you will uh, uh, start your peer. Okay, and peers MSP ID also organizations MSP ID we define in this file only. Okay, so I will keep this name as it is. Next is your MSP directory, dir. Okay, this is the MSP of your orderer. Now yesterday we created cryptographic material using the crypto text gen tool, right? Sorry. So this is what we created yesterday, and here's your MSP. Okay, so this is your MSP. um, I will copy this path and I will use this path in this configuration. Okay, now come to the next one. Okay, so all this value which is inside the orderer org, right, because of this anchor configuration, right, it will be copied here. Okay, at the runtime. So that is the meaning of this asterisk here, and the combination of asterisk and the and here in this file. Okay, so name, ID, and MSP directory. So this completes our orderer definition. Next is consortium. Consortium means your group of organization that is doing business together. Okay, so sample consortium, it can be any name whatever you want. Okay, sample consortium has organizations, and this consortium will have two organizations. Okay, so if you remember yesterday we created cryptographic material for two organizations. So we will use the Genesis block, or we will create or set up for the two organization. But you can have only one organization, or you can have multiple or three or four organizations depending on your requirement. ORG1, ORG2, right? So again, you can see here how this org is used with the asterisk. It means that is being referenced here with this label. Okay, so name for the org1 is organization 1 MSP, and the ID is org1 MSP. Now this is the name that we have to use while starting the our peers. Okay, all the peers that belongs to organization 1, we have to use this MSP ID for all the peers that belongs to organization 1. Okay, next, MSP directory. Okay, so MSP directory will be, come over here, peer organizations, first organization, and this MSP directory, this MSP folder. Okay, only up to MSP, and this is only up to MSP. Got it? So again, anchor peer is the peer which can be used for the uh, uh, communication between the organizations. Okay, so for now we can leave it the way it is right now. Organization 2. Okay, so similarly same thing we will define here for the organization 2, and name is name, and the MSP ID is, you understand now what is MSP ID, but I definitely have to update the MSP directory for the organization 2. Organization, this is my organization 2, and this is my MSP. Okay, MSP folder. So I will copy this path of this MSP folder, and I have to place here. Okay, so after that, accept that, everything looks good. That's it. So now our configuration file is ready to generate the Genesis block for the orderer. Okay, so to create the Genesis block, we have to use this command. Okay, and the command is name of uh, your utility, which is your config transaction tx generate minus profile. Now this is the name of your profile that you created to create the Genesis block. Okay, and the name of my profile is this value that is highlighted. Okay, this is the name of profile for Genesis block, and then minus output block, and then you have to uh, write the path where you want to write the Genesis block. So I want to write the Genesis block in the same in the current directory. So you press enter, you can see this, that the Genesis block has been written successfully, or Genesis block has been created successfully. Now if you go here, uh, bin, and here's your Genesis block. Okay, so actually you cannot read this file because this is a binary file. Okay, but you can, I mean, see that it has all the certificates. It got all the certificates, right? You can see here, right? So and all these are the public certificates. None of these certificates is the private key of any entity. Okay, so my Genesis block is ready. Now I can go ahead and start my orderer. Okay, I can go ahead and start my orderer because orderer need Genesis block, and Genesis block is ready. Genesis block, you can see it has uh, detail of entire consortium. Okay, so this is the Docker Composer file that I created for our orderer. Okay, uh, most of the things I have already explained. So service, this is the name of service, this is the container name, this is the image that will be used to create the container. These are environment variables. Okay, So Genesis method, you have to set this variable because we are using file system to provide the Genesis block. So Genesis method is file, and the Genesis file. Where is the Genesis file? So I'm going to place the Genesis file for the orderer in this location. Right now, this is the location inside your container. When container will start, it will have a this directory structure. Okay, etc hyperledger config config.tx. Okay, inside this I'm going to place my Genesis block, and the name of the file will be Genesis block. Okay, and the name of our file is also Genesis block. Now say suppose name of this file was something else, then you also have to update that value here. Okay, then this is your local MSP directory. Okay, and where you going to place the MSP directory or MSP of the orderer. So again, this is the location in the container, right? This is the location in the container, and from where orderer, when it will start, it need to take the MSP of the orderer. Now these are the folders or the directory inside the container, right? How we going to pass these values or provide these values and place these values in Docker containers or Docker folders, right? That is the question. Hmm. Because MSP directories, MSP folder, MSP certificates is in my local system, right? They are not available in the Docker, because Docker is uh, because these directory structure will be created or available when container will start, right? So for that, again, we use the volumes or the mounting. Okay, so first one, let's first create or place solve our Genesis block problem. Okay, so here I have said Genesis file will be should be taken from this location. Okay, now if you see here, I'm mapping this location. Okay, I'm mapping this location et/etc hyperledger config.tx with my this local or local directory structure. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I will create a folder. I will name it Genesis. Okay. So now my Genesis block is inside the Genesis folder. I'm going to map this container directory with this location. Okay. So what will happen? When container will start, it will copy this file, or container will make available this file to sorry this file to this location. Okay, so Genesis block is now mapped. Second is MSP, orderer MSP. Okay, now uh, orderer will take the orderer MSP from this location. So I have to I have to make available all the MSP folder structure or the directory structure to this location. So how I will do it? I have to map um, orders MSP directory to container directory. And this time I will not give this MSP. Okay, I have to go inside the orderer, and I have to provide the path of this MSP. Reason behind that, because now your orderer need to uh, have capability to sign a transaction, maybe, right? So it needs the private key. So we have to provide the MSP of identity MSP or local MSP in this to your orderer. Okay, so inside this folder we will have a MSP. So MSP will be this folder. MSP folder will be mapped to the Docker container, Docker containers directory here, right? So that's it. And this look at this last configuration also. So here actually my perp, because uh, when you're as I explained you, when Docker starts, it creates a it create a ledger. It create a channel, and channel means ledger, right? And by default your orderer creates the ledger on this location, production slash bash slash hyperledger slash production. Okay, so I want to show you that ledger. So that is why, I mean, I can certainly go, I mean, enter in the Docker, and I can show you the ledger and the ledger file or ledger transaction file from there as well. But it's easy if we see it in the uh, user interface. So that is the reason I have mapped this Docker location to the volumes in the item masters bin and orderer. Okay, so let me start orderer Docker compose up. Hello. Okay, so order has been started without any issue. So you can see here uh, orderer has loaded all the information, right? And see, ledger directory is where hyperledger production orderer. So this is the ledger directory, and it has also read your private key, loading the private key. See, so it has loaded the private key from here, right? Key store this. Okay, see, it has loaded this private key, and the private key value is name of the private key value is this 2078. And if you see in our local directory, right, orderer MSP key store, this is same 2078 2078, and it ends with BC0F2 BC0F2, right? So it has, see, you can see that it has loaded the same private key. So it indicates that our configuration has been moved from the from the local file system to container, and your order has also been able to load that information. Okay, so order is running. Now let's go here, and I want to show you one more thing. Orderer volume. This was the directory that I have mapped uh, uh, in the Docker Compose file, and it is basically mapping the ledger or orders ledger to my local file system. Okay, this is orderer. So volume orderer chain. Okay, inside chain folder, it creates one folder for every channel. Okay, this is the default behavior of your orderer. Orderer creates one folder inside the chain folder for each channel, right? So right now you can see here test chain id. So this is the only channel right now running on the orderer, right? So and each channel has one ledger, so inside this folder I should see a ledger. This is my ledger. Okay, and but this ledger will not have any state database because it's orderer's ledger. So yeah, so this is only, it will record only transaction logs. Or see, if I open it, your Genesis block information has come in this file. Okay, if you read it carefully, you will able to understand that all your Genesis block information has become the part of your uh, system channels ledger. Okay, and that is why we call the Genesis block is the first block in your hyperledger fabric. Okay, so that's it for today, and in the next session we will see a few more things. Okay, thanks.